I'm Carl Richell. I'm the founder and CEO of System 76. I'm with Victoria Brekenfeld, engineer for the Cosmic Desktop who works on the compositor. So to start off, we'll talk a little bit about what Cosmic is. It is a new desktop environment. So if you're familiar with GNOME or you're familiar with KDE, Cosmic is a complete desktop environment just like GNOME and KDE are. We started the Cosmic project about 4 years ago. It is professionally designed, professionally developed, and professionally QA'd with a team at System 76. Cosmic is unique in that it is modular and composable. It's a desktop environment that is made up of numerous discrete components that can be combined together to create a unique user experience. So even in these screenshots here, we have a panel at the top and a dock on the left, similar to the Unity layout. In the center, we have a panel on the bottom, and all of the functionality you would need to operate your computer all in one panel on the bottom. And on the left, for the folks that don't like a dock and they like the most screen space they could get, we have just a panel at the top and all of the applications tiled in. The panel can even auto-hide. And I'm very close to that. The only thing I really miss is my clock. Somehow I have to look at the clock all the time. So for some reason, so I have to keep my panel up. Cosmic is a desktop environment, but it is also a platform for developers. Because it is discrete components, you can use what fits your needs and develop new applets or shell components for what's missing. So you can scratch your own itches, and it's easy to adapt and expand Cosmic in a very high quality way that's intended to be done. For distros, you can adopt different configurations. So based on the feedback from your own users, your own user research, or the types of problems you're trying to solve as a distro, you can use the components that make most sense for addressing those problems or the things you're trying to create. You can ship different applets and components. And you can brand Cosmic. It's intended to be branded for your distribution. So if you're Fedora or Ubuntu or SUSE or Aaron OS, what we want is for people to be able to go to your website to download, see your brand, your colors, download your distro, and feel like that distro is part of what your brand is and the same experience. And for end users to make it your own. It's very easy to, you see where we have different panels and docks and things like that. Sometimes when you think you see that, you might have to go into a bunch of dot files and other things and change configuration files. In Cosmic, everything is drag and drop inside of settings. So it's simple for any user to make the desktop their own. Cosmic Beta was released on September 25th, 2025. And Cosmic is available on popular distros. Pop! OS is the System 76 distro, so of course there. Arch Linux, Fedora, OpenSUSE, CachyOS, Nix, Redux, Aaron OS, Slackware, Postmarket OS, Gentoo, and RHEL through Copper Repo. It's available on all the most popular distros. It's not available on Ubuntu, the most popular distro. But I'm sure we're going to fix that. For me, that's bug number 1. If you recall, bug number 1, it was the first bug for Ubuntu, and it was that Microsoft had a dominant market share. This Cosmic on Ubuntu is my bug number 1. Next up, towards the end of the talk, we're going to have the release date for Cosmic, because it's now set, so we'll reveal that at the end of the talk. But we also want to talk about features. Because we're nearing our first release, we want to talk about what we're going to be building next and what we see in the future for Linux desktop. Victoria will start us off.
Thank you, Carl. So Cosmic is evolving. For everybody who doesn't know, I'm Victoria. I work as an engineer at System 76 on the Cosmic desktop, mostly on the Wayland compositor. So I'm starting off with a little bit more technical topics and then go into more of like the grand picture of what we're trying to build in the next release of Cosmic. So for our current release, one of the most requested features by far, which is quite surprising to me, it's quite new hardware, right, is HDR support. And we've been on the table at various HDR Hackfests, at various conferences, discussing how this is going to be implemented in the Linux ecosystem and also contributing code from the get-go. But sadly, this didn't make the cut for 1.0, right? There's different stuff that might just be a little bit more higher priority when you're trying to ship a desktop than the colors looking nice on your favorite new OLED TV. But we have a plan, and part of that is a more general overhaul of our whole rendering pipeline, right? Right now it is very simple and in many places not really color aware. So to enable HDR, we need better support for different color spaces, and this will be a more general makeover of that whole pipeline, which will then also enable a bunch of other little features that are very color dependent, like for example nightlight, which is also a very highly rated issue on our project board. Another thing is that we are still working on multi-GPU improvements. Cosmic is already way better than what we shipped on the previous PopOS release in that regard, but I did a whole talk about this together with Sebastian Wick from Red Hat at this year's XDC a couple of weeks ago. So if you want to hear more about the technical stuff on how we are trying to make that situation on Linux even better, I recommend you to simply give that talk maybe a watch. And then the other obvious technical thing is more protocols. There has been a lot of good stuff upstream that we don't really support yet. A lot of that is really low-hanging fruit, like top-level tag is not very difficult conceptually. Top-level icon isn't either. We just need to figure out a way to then forward the icon to the various shell components that need to display it, and yada yada. Lots of these small little protocols that are already used, thankfully not required by a bunch of components, but that we would obviously like to support. And then in the same vein, we want to continue our very upstream first development. So we still have a couple of private Wayland protocol extensions that we think would make a good fit with upstream that we're trying to get into shape and talk to the right people of the other desktop environments to make that happen. For example, recently we proposed the X2G surface shape extension, which is all about the toolkits being able to communicate their rounded window corner radiuses to the compositor so we can draw nicer outlines that are actually fitting. So I'm hoping there's already some interest from GNOME folk that we get this through quickly, and then this won't only work with our apps, but with all the different toolkits on our desktop. On another more general thing, this is what our current workspace overview looks like. When we first launched this, I think in Alpha 2 or Alpha 3, it was a little rough. It was lacking a bunch of features people were used to coming from our previous GNOME-based pop shell. It's still lacking like very, very few. For example, you can't just drag a window out of the workspace preview into the next one. But in general, it's now much better. A bunch of performance issues were solved, even though there's still definitely a little bit of room of improvement there. And in general, the feedback has now been from people coming over from the old pop shell that it is doing all the things they expected to do. On the other side, Cosmic has really attracted the attention of a bunch of people who come from the tiling window manager world because we have built-in tiling support. And there the people were initially not very happy because we have a very dynamic workspace system inspired by GNOME. They were still quite happy that we had like separate workspaces per displays, but they wanted to have a static configuration of workspaces, right? And with a bunch of user research and UX, we ended up implementing something completely different, a third thing, which is now workspace pinning. You can now pin a bunch of workspaces so that they will be persistent. A bunch of settings to them will be persistent across sessions, and then you will start with all your pinned workspaces in your new session, and dynamic workspaces will continue to be added to that. So that solves the issue for this user group quite nicely while giving a new tool that is hopefully very intuitive to our existing user base as well. And I hope that also informs how we are hoping to tackle more features like this in the next release of Cosmic in general. For example, there's been a big ask for session restore, and there's also a bunch of upstream work going on there. And we hope when we hopefully deliver this feature that this will eliminate any need for, I want my browser to always be on Workspace 1 because we can just automatically restore what was on the previous session of the user, which is probably more intuitive to the majority of users. But in the same way, we already get requests for, now that we have the pinned workspace, for window rules. Oh, I want my terminal to launch on Workspace 4. I don't care where it was last session. I want it to always be on Workspace 4. And of course, at this point, it's too early to talk about how we're going to tackle this, but I can try to assure you that we will tackle this in the same vein that we did the workspace pinning, where we have these very different requests from the users and trying to end up with a cohesive UX experience that provides the features for all the use cases both of these groups have in some way, shape, or form. And in a similar way, window management will, of course, also see further refinement. There's still a little gap of things that we need to bring over from PopShell. For example, we have tiling exceptions. There's a list of windows that should never be tiled by default. And you can edit that in a config file, but on PopShell, we had a way for users to graphically select a new window they wanted to add to this list. Little stuff like that still missing. But as I said before, we're hoping to do the same UX research and then even elevate further on all the window management concepts that we already have. And then last but not least, a really ongoing thing from the beginning of the desktop till now is, of course, the topic of accessibility, where I think there's also no real way to ever be done with that, but we definitely still have a bunch of work to do, which is mostly because we had lots of groundwork to do, right? We developed a completely new toolkit that the base ICE we were using had no support for accessibility at that point in time. We've since contributed a lot to that, tried to upstream a bunch of those efforts, and are very close to enable screen reader support for all our apps. On the other side, on the compositor, we shipped screen reader support earlier than other desktops on Pop! OS because we used a private protocol there. But now finally the upstream stack with Newton has established itself, and so we need to transition over so that the screen reader support will also then be what it needs to be on other distributions by default. And there's lots more. We're far from being done. We have a screen magnifier, we have color filters, but we don't have a way to reduce animations. Like, we have a ginormous list of things that we still want to tackle here, and you can be sure that Epoch 2 will hopefully deliver much more on that front as well. And then last but not least, I hope there will also be a couple of surprises that we can't anticipate yet in Epoch 2 for you all to discover. And one of those surprises is something that Carl hopefully will now talk about, which I hope we will be able to ship a little bit before Epoch 2.
I hope so. I hope so. All right. So at System 76, we regularly survey all of our customers. We want to understand how well we're doing, where we can improve, where we're falling short, what features our customers are interested in. What we found, we did these surveys before we started work on Cosmic to get some data and information about our customers' usage. We asked them, how many computers do you use regularly? Well, 73% of our customers use more than one computer regularly. And a shocking 10.5% use 4 or more computers regularly. So we asked those users, would you like to sync installed applications between your computers? And about 62% said yes, they'd like to synchronize applications between their computers. This one also surprised me. 60% said they like to sync their dot files between their computers. Now, what does that say about our customers? That they know what dot files are, that they use dot files, that they're important to be the same on different computers. So in response to what our customers are telling us they need, we built Cosmic Sync. And I'm going to show you a video of Cosmic Sync in action. So, just to give a little bit of setup here, the screen on my left, or on the left here, is my desktop. The screen on my right is my laptop. I've signed into my System 76 account on both of these. And by the way, I got this code 2 weeks ago and was really impressed with how well it's working. We've been working on it through most of the year. But as we start the video, as I change my settings on the left, they will just start to change on the laptop on the right. There's a bit of a delay today, and that was my first request, was you guys got to make this faster. And there the docs disappeared. And over the last week, I received updates that said, okay, this is going to be much faster for the demo that's at our unconference a little later today. So we'll all find out together how much faster it's become. Now I move the panel to the bottom. I'm starting to change the layout of the applets on my desktop to what I'd like to have. And as that's happening, it's already starting to happen on the right side. We built Cosmic with that information from and that feedback from our customer in mind. So that means we built the configuration system with synchronization in mind. So state and configuration are completely separate in Cosmic. So that means something like if you're in Cosmic settings and you have, it's a certain size, it's a certain position, and it has maybe its settings, or maybe you're in Cosmic Files and you have the settings pane open, that's your state. Your configuration is, I prefer list view over grid view. I like, I want to always have the preview menu open. I like my sorting to be this way. That's your configuration. So now here at the end, I was changing settings for Cosmic Terminal. So what the configuration is not just what the desktop layout is, not what the wallpaper is, it's all of the applications as well. So all of your preferences throughout the entire desktop stack, and this will work for third-party Cosmic applications as well, can be synchronized in Cosmic. So as you go from one computer to the next, you have everything that you are, everything's set up the way that you prefer. Oh yes, we're not on the slides anymore, are we? Okay, so Cosmic Sync features. Settings across all your computers, and it's a desktop environment. Desktop environment is available in a lot of different distributions, and that means the same preferences across all of the distros that you use as well. Custom keyboard shortcuts in our user testing, that was very important to a lot of users. It takes time to set up those keyboard shortcuts. We get pretty married to our keyboard shortcuts. They synchronize as well. Personal files is an interesting one. I put it up here because I'd like to have it. And essentially, this is what we've built, and it is working. I've tested it. But there's a lot of cost modeling for us to work through what personal file synchronization is going to mean. But it's something that I'd also like to provide. Dot files, of course, because our customers told us that's very important to them. Configuring Git repos in their folders. So we also know a lot of our customers are developers. So inside of settings, you will be able to configure different folders with Git repos that you want to be cloned into those folders. Then when you go to another computer and you sign in, all of your folders and your Git repos will be created for you. I think the Microsoft guys had a fantastic talk this morning, and they said something very interesting to me. It was that they reload their operating system often and use a YAML file to get back to their configuration. That's precisely what this is. But instead of any configuration file at all, you just log in and your entire desktop becomes what your other desktop was. Unfortunately, this is only available on Linux. Wi-Fi networks and VPNs and user apps as well. I would love to figure out system apps. I think there's a pretty big lift to do that. I think it would be valuable for our developer customers using different distros. But then I think about NixOS. I think, how is this going? How's this going to work? But user apps are an important step that I know we'll be able to accomplish. Cosmic Sync is a zero-knowledge service. Everything is encrypted end-to-end, even the paths. So because you can have personal information in the name of a path of a file, that's encrypted as well. There's a personal key that's created on a user's device. That key can then be added to other devices. The key is never on the server. We can never decrypt the files that are on the server. So that means there are trade-offs there. That means we can never build a web interface where you go see what your files are. But that's the point. I think the world's kind of getting stranger, and zero-knowledge services, I think, are very important, or more important today than they probably were even a few years ago. It is the user's key, so the user owns everything, and this will be arriving in 2026. All right, and finally, the Cosmic release. It's scheduled for December 11th, and that'll be our first release. We're going to make some changes to the way that we do releases. Originally, we had planned to do annual releases, but as we've thought through this and what we'd like to deliver to our customers, I think is much more likely, because we're getting our design engineering QA process is tightened up and into a production state, I think we'll be able to do a rolling release DE. So features and bug fixes are constantly moving to users, and distros can pick a flag, a release flag, at any point that makes sense for them to package and deliver, and then decide whether at what point they might want to update the packaging inside of their distribution. So that's it. Thank you very much.